All right, everyone. So last week in chapter 6, you mastered the critical path method. So you can draw network diagrams, calculate flow times, and identify critical activities like bros. Well, you probably felt pretty confident about project planning, right? Well, I'm about to burst that bubble. Here's what nobody tells you in those textbooks. Okay? So, projects using this critical path method fail a lot. We are talking about a staggering failure rate that would make any other industry completely rethink their approach. Think about it. If your phone failed as often as projects do, you would throw it in the trash. If restaurants got orders wrong as frequently as projects run late, they would go out of business overnight. So, what's going on? Are project managers just incompetent? Are we teaching you the wrong methods? Well, actually, the project runs much deeper. The techniques you learned in chapter 6 are not wrong, they are just incomplete. So they ignore some pretty fundamental truths about how humans actually behave and how organizations really work. So today, we are going to challenge everything. We are moving from asking, what is the critical path, to asking, what is really constraining this project? So, from when should activities start to what is actually stopping us from finishing? So, this is not just another planning technique to add to your toolkit. This is a complete rethink of how projects should really work. So, let's get started. So, here is our roadmap for today. And trust me, this journey is going to challenge some deeply held assumptions about project management. Okay? So, first question, why do traditional methods fail spectacularly? I mean, we have been using critical path method and Gantt charts for decades. These are not new, untested approaches. Okay? These are not new, untested approaches. Yet, projects keep failing at rates that would be absolutely unacceptable in any other field. Well, what is really going on here? Here is a hint. It is not because project managers are bad at their jobs. No. It is because the methods themselves have some serious blind spots. Okay? Second, I'm going to introduce you to something called the critical chain approach. Okay? So now, do not let the name fool you. This is just this is not just critical path method with a fancy new model. Okay? It is not. This is a fundamentally different way of thinking about projects that comes from manufacturing and operations research. And finally, and this is where it gets really interesting, we are going to explore how this approach actually fixes the problems that that plague traditional scheduling. So, we are talking about real solutions to real problems you will face in the field. Now, by the end of today's discussion, you will understand why that beautiful critical path you calculated last week might actually be setting you up for failure. And more importantly, what you can do about it. Sound intriguing, right? Well, let me give you a real example that hits closer to home. Okay? So, let's plan a wedding. Okay. So, I want you to picture this. Sarah and Mike are getting married in 8 months. Okay? So, they create a beautiful timeline using everything from chapter 6. Okay? So, they map out all the critical activities. So, they book the venue, order invitations, find a caterer, buy the dress, and arrange flowers. They even calculate dependencies or the precedence activity. Now, you cannot send invitations until you have booked the venue, right? So their critical path shows everything will be done in 2 weeks to spare. Everything will be done with actually 2 weeks to spare. Well, perfect planning. But here is what actually happens. Okay? So the venue booking takes 3 weeks instead of 1 because they keep going back and forth on dates. The dress ordering gets delayed because Sarah's mom insists on visiting just one more shop. Mike procrastinates on booking the DJ because he has a big work project. The photographer, they want is suddenly the photographer they want is suddenly unavailable. Okay, sound familiar, right? Each delay eats into their buffer, and suddenly they are scrambling in the final weeks. Now, traditional planning says this happened because of poor estimation or inadequate risk management. Well, the critical chain approach says something completely different. Okay? So this happened because of predictable human behaviors that we actually plan for. That we can actually plan for. So, Sarah did not suddenly become bad at planning. The critical path method simply does not account for how people really behave. The perfectionism, the procrastination, the student syndrome where people wait until the last minute to start tasks. Sounds familiar, right? So this is exactly what happens in business projects too, just with bigger budgets and more stakeholders. So the wedding example shows us that the problem is not the planners, okay? It is not the project managers. It is the planning method itself. Okay, so now let us dig deep into why traditional methods fail and how critical chain fixes these problems. Okay, so I will use our wedding example throughout so you can see exactly how this plays out in practice. Okay, so problem number 1, uncertain task durations. Now, remember Sarah and Mike's wedding planning? Okay? When they estimated how long each task would take, what do you think they did? They probably thought, booking the venue should take about a week. But just to be safe, let's say 2 weeks. Right? Sound familiar? This is exactly what happens in every project. People pad or add buffers to their estimates with safety time, okay? Because they have been burned before. Take note, they padded their estimates with safety time because from their experience, okay? Because they have been burned before. So Sarah remembers her friend's wedding where the first venue fell through, so she adds extra time just in case. Okay? But here is the critical insight from from the chapter. So, when you give people extra time, they use it, of course, but not how you would expect. This is actually called the student syndrome. So Sarah has 2 weeks to book the venue, right? So she doesn't even start looking until week 2. You see that? That is student syndrome. Then something goes wrong and boom, she's late anyway. So the traditional CPM says this is a planning failure. So critical change says this is predictable human behavior that we actually manage. Okay? So problem number 2, multitasking inefficiencies. So let us say Mike is simultaneously planning the honeymoon. Okay, take note, simultaneously meaning multitasking, organizing the bachelor party, and shopping for wedding rings. Okay? So traditional planning says he can do all 3 in parallel. After all, they are independent tasks, right? But wrong. Here is what really happens. So, Mike spends Monday morning researching honeymoon destinations, then switches to calling venues for the bachelor party, then heads out to look for rings. Now, Tuesday, he is back to honeymoon planning again, but he has forgotten half of what he learned last Monday. So he has to re-research hotels he already looked up. Okay? So the chapter shows this mathematically. If Mike has 3 10-day tasks, okay, and does them sequentially, well, the total time is 30 days. But if he multitasks, doing half of each, then coming back to finish, each task takes 20 days because of the switching time and ramp up needed. Okay? So, critical chain recognizes that multitasking is the enemy of efficiency. It focuses resources on one critical task at a time. Okay? So problem number 3, poor handling of constraints. So here is where it gets really interesting. In traditional planning, Sarah and Mike would identify their critical path. Maybe venue, one part of the critical path, then the invitations, and then the catering, and then the flowers. But what if the real constraint is not the sequence of tasks, but the availability of Sarah's mom. So, who insists on being involved in every decision. Okay? Now, the traditional methods miss this completely. The traditional method missed this completely. So they focus on task dependencies but actually ignore resource constraints. So Sarah's mom becomes a bottleneck. Okay? Every decision waits for her schedule, waits for the schedule of Sarah's mom. So she is the constraint that determines the project duration, not the critical path. Okay, do you get it? So, how critical chain fixes these problems? Okay, let's fix number one. We will remove individual task buffers. Okay, so instead of Sarah padding each task estimate, critical chain says, give me your best estimate. 50-50 probability you'll finish on time. No safety margin. Okay, take note. This is the critical chain already. So, venue booking is 1 week. Okay, only 1 week, not 2 weeks. So, Sarah panics. What? If something goes wrong, what will happen? You see? That is where the magic happens. So, problem number 2, we will fix it. Adding a shared project buffer, okay? So all that safety time Sarah wanted to add to individual tasks, we collect it and put it at the end of the project as one big buffer, okay? So instead of 2-week estimates for each task, we have aggressive 1-week estimates with a shared 4-week buffer at the end. Okay? So why actually this work? Okay, why does this work? It is because delays do not always happen. That's reality. When Sarah books the venue in 3 days instead of 7, the 4-day savings goes into the shared buffer. Okay? When Mike finds the perfect DJ immediately, those saved days accumulate. So the buffer protects the whole project, not the individual tasks or activity that might not even, okay, because that might not even need protection. Okay? So, the third one, we will fix it by identifying and managing bottlenecks. So, the critical chain would identify Sarah's mother as the constraint, the resource that determines the project speed. Now, everything gets organized around her availability. Okay? She gets priority scheduling. Other tasks are arranged so she is never waiting. And she's never the reason something is delayed. In our wedding example, maybe they schedule all of mom's decision points in concentrated blocks when she is available, rather than spreading them throughout the timeline. Okay? Fix number 4, prioritizing critical tasks. So, when conflicts arise, and they always do, okay, that's reality, critical chain provides clear rules. Now, if the DJ booking conflicts with the flower selection, which gets priority? Whichever activity has less buffer remaining. Now, if flowers have 2 weeks of buffer left and DJ has 1 day, then DJ gets all the attention. Okay? Here is the behavioral change that makes everything work. Traditional planning says Sarah booked the venue by March 15th. Critical change says Sarah start looking for venues the moment we decide on the date, and the instant you book it, hand off to Mike to start invitations. So, you see, no waiting for arbitrary due dates. No student syndrome, like a relay race where runners are ready to receive the baton and immediately start running. Okay? So, well, why this works in practice? Okay? This is actually, okay, because in critical path method, we actually consider the human behavior, okay? That is really the reality. Now, the key insight is this. Traditional methods assume people behave like machines, that people are predictable, consistent, and rational. While in critical chain, it acknowledges that people are human. They procrastinate, they get distracted, and they pad estimates. So instead of fighting human nature, it builds a system that works with it. Okay? So this is not just a scheduling technique. It is a fundamental rethinking of how projects should be managed when humans are involved. Okay, so let me summarize what this actually means for your project proposals in 4 key points. Okay, first, first, mindset shift. Well, stop thinking of your project as just a technical solution. Okay? Take note, stop thinking of your project as just a technical solution. It is a human system operating within a complex organization. Number one, with politics, competing priorities, and real constraints. Okay, take note of that. Second, focus on change. Do not just list what tasks need to be done. Identify what will actually prevent your project from succeeding. Is it getting approvals, access to data, key personal availability? That is where your attention needs to go. Okay? The third one, your buffer strategy. So those padded time estimates you have been using, they are actually making your project more likely to fail. Okay? You have to use aggressive estimates and put your safety time where it can actually protect the whole project, okay? Not the individual tasks or activities. And finally, your stakeholder reality, okay? Plan for how people in that company actually behave, not how your textbook says they should behave. Okay? The busy manager who says, "Sure, I help," but never responds to emails. Okay, you see that? The department that promises data but takes weeks to deliver. So your job is to create proposals that work in the real world with real organizational constraints and with real human behavior. So that is what separates professional project proposals from academic exercises. Okay? So let's proceed. Okay. Here is exactly how you are going to transform your project proposals using critical chain principles. Step 1, constraint identification. So pull out your chapter 6 timeline right now, okay? Look beyond the task sequence and you have to ask, what is really going to slow this down in your specific company? Now, if you are proposing a customer service improvement project, your constraint is not collect customer feedback, okay? It's not. It is getting the customer service manager to prioritize your project when they are dealing with daily crisis. So, if you are designing a new inventory system, your constraint is not the software development. It is getting IT approval and integration time when they have a backlog of urgent tasks. So I want you to write down the real bottlenecks, not the theoretical ones, okay? Now, step 2, strip the safety padding, okay? So this is where you need to be brutally honest. Look at every task duration in your current timeline. Okay, I guarantee you have budded them. So let's say stakeholder interviews, 3 weeks. Probably means 1 week of actual interviewing plus 2 weeks of safety time because you are worried about scheduling conflicts. You have to cut the padding, okay? You have to cut the padding. You have to use your best estimate. The time it would take if everything goes reasonably well. Yes, this feels risky. Well, that is the point. Okay? Now, step 3, strategic buffer placement. All the time you just remove, do not throw it away. You have to only relocate it strategically. Okay? I want you to place that buffer time before critical decision points, major approvals, or whatever delays would kill your project momentum. So if your project needs final sign-off, which is very important, okay, you have to put buffer time there because executives get interrupted by crisis all the time. So if you need data from multiple departments, buffer after data collection because coordinating across departments always takes longer than expected. Okay? Step 4, bottleneck management. So your implementation plan should revolve around your constraints. Now, if the IT department is your bottleneck, everything gets scheduled around their availability. Okay? So you don't start user training until you are absolutely certain the system will be ready. Now, you don't schedule executive presentations until you are confident you will have results to show. I want you to focus your energy, attention, and resources on managing these bottlenecks. So everything else is just secondary. This is not just about better scheduling, okay? It is about showing companies you understand how to navigate their real operational constraints and deliver results in their actual environment. Okay, now this is where critical thinking becomes your competitive advantage in company presentations. Let me show you how to position this strategically. Okay, show the difference, make it visual. When you present, do not just show your critical chain timeline. Okay, don't do that. You have to show both versions side by side. Okay, you have to place your original chapter 6 timeline and say, here's the traditional approach we could take. And notice how we have scheduled stakeholder interviews for 3 weeks, system testing for 2 weeks, and implementation for 4 weeks. Okay, next, you have to reveal now your critical chain version. Okay, and you have to tell them, but here is what will actually happen in your organization. Stakeholder interviews will take 1 week of actual work, but we need to buffer for your quarter 4 budget planning, okay? We need to buffer your Q4 budget planning cycle when managers are unavailable. So system testing needs aggressive timelines, but buffer protection before your IT freeze the period. Okay? Now this comparison, the traditional method and the critical approach, shows you are not just proposing another student project. Okay? You are proposing realistic solutions that account for their specific organizational calendar and constraints. Okay, so do not speak with generalities. You have to base your research of this company, identify their actual constraints. Now, if it is a manufacturing company, maybe their constraint is that operational managers can only meet during shift changes. That's the reality. If it is a healthcare organization, maybe it is compliance review process that cannot be rushed. Now, say something like, based our analysis of your organization, we have identified 3 critical constraints. First, your constraint is your monthly board approval cycle. The fact that your IT team is implementing a new ERP system and your policy that all customer-facing changes require 30-day advance notice. Our timeline is built around these realities. Okay? So this shows you have done your homework and understand their business, not just project management theory. Okay? Here is where you differentiate yourself from other student presentations. Do not just say you understand organizational constraints. No, you have to prove it with specific examples from their company. Okay, so you may say, we know that in your organization, the finance department gets overwhelmed during month-end closing. So we have scheduled all budget-related approvals for mid-month when they have bandwidth. We also recognize that your customer service team is handling 20% more calls since the product launch. So our timeline accounts for their limited availability for interviews. Now, this level of organizational awareness signals that you are thinking like a real consultant, not just completing an academic exercise, okay? So the key message you are sending is this. We are not here to impose textbook solutions on your real world problems. We are here to design solutions that will work within your actual constraints and deliver results you can count on. So with that, companies have been burned by consultants and students who promise unrealistic timelines. Okay? So when you show that you understand their constraints and have built realistic protection into your timeline, then you immediately gain credibility. Okay, so this brings us perfectly to where we are headed next week, the chapter 8. The focus is on cost and benefit planning, and there's a crucial connection here that most project proposals miss. Okay, so the time cost connection. So your timeline directly impacts your project economics. So those spotted estimates from traditional planning don't just waste time, they inflate costs unnecessarily. So when you tell a company that stakeholder interviews will take 3 weeks instead of 1 week, you are not just being conservative with time, you are doubling the labor costs for that phase. Conversely, unrealistic timelines that inevitably run over create cost overruns and delayed benefits. So if your project is supposed to improve customer satisfaction and generate cost savings, but it launches 3 months late because of poor time planning, those delayed benefits have real economic impact. Okay, so companies are sophisticated about project economics. That's the reality. When they see timeline estimates that do not actually match their organizational realities, they immediately question your cost projections and benefit calculations. So they think, if these students do not understand how long things actually take here, how can we trust their financial analysis? That is the reality. Okay? So, but when you present timelines that account for their specific constraints, approval cycles, resource availability, organizational priorities, your costs and benefit projections automatically become more credible. Okay, so the critical chain approach you have learned today is not just about better scheduling. It is about building the foundation for economically sound project proposals. So realistic timelines lead to accurate cost estimates, achievable benefit projections, and ultimately projects that deliver the returns you have promised. Okay? So next week, we will build on this foundation to ensure your project economics are as realistic as your timelines. So you will learn to quantify benefits that actually materialize and estimate costs that companies can budget confidently. Okay, so remember, a project proposal manages reality, not wishful thinking, that applies to time and cost and benefits equally. Okay? Okay, so that's it for critical chain. Now, I want you to apply this in your company study. You have to revise your project timelines from chapter 6 using these principles. You have to identify your real constraints. You have to strip out the padding and add strategic buffers. Okay? So I want you to transform those academic schedules into proposals that actually work in the real world. So that's it. See you. Bye.